Hello, uh, this is my first video on how to create things in Saccflight, just basic tutorials and stuff. Um, so yeah, let's get into it. I guess I don't want to waste y'all's time. So the first thing that you're gonna need is you're gonna need to download Unity 2022, and you're also gonna need to download the VRChat Creator Companion, which you can download here. I will put the link in the video, but if it doesn't work, then just type in VRC Creator Companion, and it'll bring you here. Um, After you've done that, you've installed Unity Hub and the version of Unity that you're going to want to use, which is 2022.3F1. This 2023. Sorry, 2022.3.22F1. So that's the version of Unity that I use, at least. After you've set up the Creator Companion, you'll click Create New Project, 2022 World Project, and you'll name it whatever you want. And I'll name it Showcase. You can also pick where you want that file to save. So in this case, I'm just going to save it to my C drive. After that, you'll just click, actually, I don't want to put it on my C drive. Give me 1 second. Okay, I've changed the location of which I wanted to save this project. I changed it to my E drive. My C drive is getting a little bit low. But name it whatever you want. Select the Unity version that you're using, so 2022. And then just click create project, and it will do the rest for you. After your Creator Companion has finished installing all of the Unity packages that it comes with the Creator Companion, like your SDKs and stuff like that, it'll bring you to this page. All you're going to do is click Open Project. So while we're waiting on Unity to boot up, we're going to go to our browser, and we're going to go to an empty tab and type in Saccflight. You should see a link to GitHub, which is here. I use 1.71. I find it the easiest. So you can go to the 19 plus releases as of course it has to be the day. But I use 1.71, so 1.71, click that, and it will install it. I don't need to because obviously I installed. So after a short period of time, your Unity should end up looking like this. Give it just a second, let it finish. Okay, now our Unity is ready to go for the most part. There are a few things that we're going to want to do, however, especially for Saccflight. Okay, now Unity is fully booted up. I apologize. So the first thing I usually like to do is I like to just enter play mode really quick, make sure all the scripts are the way they're supposed to be and they didn't compile incorrectly, or I didn't get a bad script off the rip. So you just kind of walk around, do whatever. Now that we're here, we're going to go to our folders, and you're going to go to wherever you saved your Saccflight. Open it up. I use WinRAR. I find it easier. Copy it. And while you're waiting on this to copy, you're going to go back to your Unity and right click on one of the folders or in this empty area right here. And you're going to click Show and Explore. From here you go to Assets, or it should already take you to Assets if you clicked on one of these pre-made folders. And after your Saccflight is done copying, you just paste it in there. And you can see it'll move all of the 2093 items over to your Unity assets. From here, all you have to do is just click on Unity, and it will start compiling and importing everything from Saccflight into your Unity scene. While you're waiting on this, what I would do, this would be very time managing, is go ahead and download Blender. For whatever platform you're on. I use 3.4. I don't know why I haven't updated it, but I find it easier to use and it still works. So while we're waiting on Saccflight to finish importing, what I would like to do is just go to Sketchfab or whatever and type in the plane model that you would like to end up using. So just find a pretty decent model here. Give me 1 minute, let me find a good one. Okay, so here we go. I found a pretty decent F-18F Super Hornet model from Ace Combat. Here's the creator, in case you want to use this model yourself. Just going to download that real quick as a blend file, that's helpful. And we're going to open up Blender. You can click A to select everything in the scene, and then X to delete things. So X is always going to be your delete, at least for me on 3.4. And we're going to go to our downloads and wait for that to finish downloading. While I'm waiting on that to finish downloading, Saccflight has finished importing for me. So we're going to go and double click, open up Saccflight and vehicles, and from here you're going to open up prefabs. So it's going to give you a whole bunch of prefabs here. These are all different prefabs. So you have multiple things. Don't do that. But the main two things you're going to want to focus on is, or three things, sorry, is the SF1 main, SF1 main lift surfaces, and SH1. So, and if it gives you this little tab for TMP importer, import them. This is your Text Mesh Pro. So it's basically all of your dial functions and stuff, or anything that has text inside of the SF1, or any other aircraft in general. So you obviously have a helicopter prefab here. You have 2 jet prefabs. These may look similar, but they are absolutely not the same. So I preferably use the SF1 main, not the lift surfaces. I find it easier to manage. There's just a whole lot less things that you need to do. And it can still result in a similar physics to the lift surfaces. The lift surfaces is wildly different from the normal SF1. So the normal SF1, you have all of these, right? You have throttle values, pitch values, yaw values, and roll values right here. The normal SF1 will have all of these, like your pitch, your air friction, your responses, all of that good stuff, right? Your lift surfaces will not. You'll see it doesn't have any responses, any friction values, or strength values. This is where the SF1 lift surfaces is different from the normal SF1. So if you turn on your gizmos, which should be this little icon up top, you'll be able to see the actual lift surfaces on this, right? So you have your vertical stabilizers, your wings, ailerons, flaps, main body, all that stuff. And if we go to the normal SF1, you'll see it's just colliders, right? Colliders are these little yellow things here. But for today, we're just going to be using the normal SF1, and we're not going to do anything with helicopters or tanks or anything like that just yet. So first off, again, just run it. enter play mode, make sure it works first, and make sure you didn't get any bad scripts. Ignore the error in the bottom left. So you can see the gear animations, all the stuff working. Jump in the pilot seat, Z for canopy, T for afterburner, and you can see our SF1A is working. So cool, now that that's out of the way, we can actually start working on our SF1. So, model is finished downloading. I'm going to open it. I'm going to copy these, or actually, usually, okay, cool. So I'm going to copy these, and I'm going to take them to one of my aviation folders, right? So I'm just going to name it Showcase F18. I'm going to paste it in there. This keeps it more organized. It's a lot easier to manage. You can sort through things faster if you go through this. So we're going to open up this blend. Okay. So now that we're here, you can view the F18 in Blender. It's got a pretty decent cockpit, which is nice. Okay, so here's some things about Blender that you're gonna want to know. So, if you want to focus on a part, so you can see I have the gear selected here, and you'll notice if I grab it using G, the gear is one solid part. So this is not gonna look good in an animation if the gear just disappears in the airframe, right? So if you want to focus on this, so it's easier to see parts, like you can't see those vertices right there, there's two ways to do it. So you can click slash on your keyboard, which focuses only on the landing gear, and you can use slash to get out of that view again. Or if you click and hold Z, usually you won't have to do this since it'll usually be on solid most of the time at the start of any project, but make sure it's on solid to do this. You can click tab, which is your edit mode, and you can click alt Z, and then you'll be able to see these vertices up here, or triangles, or whatever you prefer. You can change it between faces, vertices, triangles, stuff like that, all with these three keybinds here. I don't really use a whole lot. Usually it's either this one or this one. So this one allows me to select a certain group of vertices, whichever I pick, and if I go to select another vertice group, it will unselect the vertices I clicked up here. However, if I turn it to this, I can select multiple groups of vertices without ever needing to change modes or click and hold down shift. So you can see I've entered back into this mode. If I select some vertices and I click and hold shift down, I'll be able to select and highlight vertices. So just for fun, I'm going to rig the front landing gear. I'm not going to do anything with the rear landing gear, so it'll just be the front landing gear today, but this will give you the premises on how to rig things and take it into Unity and animate it. So select each part that you want to move, so highlight it and then click P. P is going to bring up this little menu. You're going to click selection. So now you'll see that this is its own separate part from the landing gear, and we're going to do this to each part. To save yourself some time, instead of just selecting each one of these vertices hand by hand, which will take forever, you can use L on your keyboard to select vertices within a group area, and then you can also use P. So I'm just going to click and spam down keybind L, and you'll see it highlights that group of vertices. And then we can just use P again. Next we're going to do the nose wheel steering. And then from here we can just use shift and highlight these vertices. So now that we've got our nose wheel steering, we're going to make our actual landing gear base a separate part. And then we're going to need to make this hydraulic inside of this its own separate part. So now you can see we have all of the parts for our landing gear that we're going to want to move and animate in Unity. You can do this with the rest of the fuselage as well. So let's say I wanted to animate the elevators. Just select both elevators or one, depending on how detailed you want your pitch, roll, and stab, or your pitch, roll, and yaw animations to be. Usually on the F-18 you'd want both elevators to be their own separate parts, since they do move with the roll and elevators. You can do this with the flaps, the rudders, slats, wing fold, stuff like that. If you have jet turbines, it's also nice to do that in there, but you don't really have to. And then again, your canopy is going to be a big one. Anything with Ace Combat models on canopy animations is kind of tricky. So usually I like to put a material on so I can see where the highlight of the canopy actually is. And just going to make sure I'm in wireframe. Yes, I am. And we're just going to select all of the vertices on the canopy. Hold up, gotta change my music. Okay. Just select all of these. Okay, now you'll notice we have this giant gap where the canopy is supposed to connect to the actual airframe, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to click P, make the canopy its own part for now. So now you can see we have the base of our canopy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into edit mode, and we're going to find that little slot where you want the rest of the canopy to be. So it'd be right here. And we're going to use the knife tool that Blender comes with. So you're going to click K, find that little part where the canopy is supposed to connect, and you're going to do that. And then you're going to click space. Usually I go into vertice mode for this because I can see what I'm picking, and go out of wireframe mode. So now I have this part of the canopy. I can click this part that we just made, hold down shift, click the root, the actual canopy, and then click Control J to combine those parts. So now you'll see we have this part of the canopy on there now, which is a bit more realistic, and we're going to mimic this on the other side as best we can. Make sure it looks clean. Oop, selected something else. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. So now we have the actual canopy. For now, I'm not going to do the cockpit, but this should be easier. You should just be able to go along and do that. Yeah, so it won't be hard at all. Just use L and then again P to create the part, but I'm not going to do it just yet. Okay, so now we have the parts we're going to want to animate, which is just our landing gear for today. So we're going to click Shift and A. It's going to bring up this little menu. We're going to click Armature. So this is basically your rig. We're going to go over to the little stickman figure on the right and click In Front and names. Now, I usually typically use wire just because it's cleaner. Then we're going to go to the, actually what we're going to do is we're going to select each part of our gear and our armature. And we're going to click slash, so it kind of declutters everything. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to go into vertice mode and, ooh, sorry, I'm jumping steps right now. Select the two vertices where you want the root of your bone to be. Click Shift and S. It's going to bring you this little menu. You're going to click Cursor to Selective. So now it's going to bring this little target looking thing over to the exact middle of the two vertices or more vertices that you just selected. Next, we're going to go out of edit mode, click on our armature, and then we're going to click Tab. Then we're going to click Shift S and selection to cursor. Okay, so now you'll see it drug the root of the bone over to the dead center of where that target is. Now we're going to do the same thing for the other side. So Shift S, cursor to selected, select the bone, Shift S, selection to cursor. So now you'll see we have this little line going across our landing gear. Now what we're going to do, and it's important you don't get this mixed up, otherwise it will not work or it will not look good in Unity at all. So select the part that you want to assign to this bone, click Shift and hold it down, select your bone. So now you'll see we have the armature and our gear part connected. And we're going to click Control P. You're going to select with empty groups. So now you'll see that part that we had selected is inside of the armature now. So what that means we can do is we can select our part and you'll see a vertex group here. So we're going to click Tab, we're going to click A, and we're going to click Assign over to the right. So now we'll see if we click on our bone and we go over to the top left and click Pose, we can select our rotation tool and now the landing gear will move at the dead center of that bone. So you're going to repeat this process for each of the parts. So I'll run through that really quick. And you will be able to name these bones. So you can click on your armature, click Tab, select the bone, and go over to this little bone over here. And we're just going to name it Showcase Front Gear. I like to abbreviate Front Gear Cover. So now you'll be able to see we changed the name, but we're not going to do that for now. You can, but I'm not going to, just for now. Okay. So our Landing gear is rigged for the most part. If you want to go a little bit more in detail, you can rig the hydraulics for the launch bar, your suspension systems, and your tires. We're not going to just jump into that just yet. So now that we have everything here, you'll notice and we go to select our root gear and we rotate it, you'll notice everything else is not rotating with it. So all of these bones here need to be attached to this root bone. So we're going to go into tab mode while selected on our armature. And we're going to click our launch bar. We're going to click shift and we're going to select our nose wheel steering since launch bar is attached to nose wheel steering on the F-18. We're going to click Control P and keep offset. So now if we rotate our nose wheel steering, you'll see that the launch bar is now attached when previously it wasn't. And we're going to do the same thing and attach the nose wheel steering to the gear bone. Control P, keep offset. So now if I select only the root bone, you'll see the entire gear moves. Another thing that I like to do before just jumping into Unity is making sure every single part moves. So you can just wiggle it around really quickly, make sure it's moving and is attached to that bone, and just make sure it works. So if you do what I did and you did that and you don't know how to get it back to right there or somewhere close, or if you want it perfect, so let's say I just right there, okay, if you want to undo something you can click Control Z and just do that until it goes back to the original position that you wanted. And this also applies for Unity. So if I go into Unity, Control Z, you'll see all the stuff I previously deleted started showing back up. There we go. Okay, so now that we have the stuff we want to animate, we're going to export. I'd like to export as an FBX. Okay. Now we're going to go to that folder, and we're just going to copy and paste these again, or wherever you save it. So could just copy this and paste it into here, as well as your textures for the model. You'll see it's importing. Okay, so if we go to our main asset views now, you can see we have the F-18 in here. You'll notice it is abnormally large. So usually for Ace Combat models, you want to change them down to 0.1. You'll see it's a bit more realistically sized there. So you'll see these are pretty self-explanatory: position, scale, rotations, stuff like that. So what I usually like to do, just for the sake of making things easier on myself, is I will line up, also make sure your gizmos are off for this, I will line up the front landing gear on my model with the SF1, so that way I don't really have to mess with any of the wheel colliders for the most part. The rear wheel colliders you usually will have to mess with, and I will show you how to do that. So now you'll see that we have our F-18 in here and we have our SH-1 in here. So how do we make the F-18 flyable the way we did with the SF-1? So if we go into play mode, it's not going to work, right? And this is where a lot of people get confused from what I've heard. So you'll see the F-18 is not attached to the SH-1. So we're going to fix that. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find an animation tab. So for the sake of it, I'm just going to close mine. Your Unity scene should look a little something that for the most part, except for the VRChat SDK and Package Manager, which I will show you how to get to later. So, to get the animation tab, which you're absolutely going to need, you go to the right, you should see these three little dials here, add tab and animation. So now you'll have an animator down here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to right click on the SF1 prefab and unpack completely and do the same for your F18. Now we're going to open up the SF1 and we're going to drag and drop the F18 under SF1, not SF1 main or vehicle respawner, SF1. This is what actually holds all of your components, your rigid bodies, all your scripts and stuff like that. So now you'll see that this is attached. This F18 can now fly. To get rid of this plain body, and you can either turn it off here or you can turn off the skin mesh render. You'll also usually want to do this with your static colliders, but for the sake of today, we're just going to keep it since we don't have any colliders for the F18 as of right now. So now we have a flyable F18. But if we go into play mode again, give it a minute, my PC's slow. You will see that the F18 now moves and you can enter it. Let me find the pilot seat. Here it is. So now the F18 flies, right? But I've pulled my gear up, I've pulled my flaps up, and none of the landing gear is moving, or any other part is not moving yet. So the first thing I usually like to do, especially in combat worlds, is I will get rid of these AGM and air-to-air missile bomb models and stuff like that, just by turning off the mesh render for each one. From there, I'm going to turn gizmos back on, and I'm going to drag and drop the pilot seats and passenger seats where I think they need to be. But you can't reference anything because our canopy isn't clear right now. So what we're going to do is go down into Assets, right click, click Create, and Material. We're going to name this Glass. So we can now drag and drop this on anything in the scene. We're going to drag and drop it onto the canopy. We're going to turn the smoothness all the way up. We're going to change the rendering mode to transparent. And we're going to give it a very, very, very low transparency. So about 5 usually, or less. So now you'll see we can actually view our cockpit, as well as the passengers, and from the outside. So now, if we turn our gizmos back on, you can see a little bit more of where the pilot's head is going to end up. And if you want even further referencing, you can open up the pilot's seat, and you can see where the actual seat is, where the pilot's butt will be. So we're going to want to move that up just a little bit. And the target eye position, so about right there. We can move our afterburners to where they should be. So roughly right there. And we're going to save this. Now we're going to go into play mode. Okay. So now that we're in Unity, we can jump into our passenger seat. That looks pretty okay. It's pretty low, but we can jump into our pilot seat now. So now we're actually in the cockpit, and all the stuff around us is working. If we click T, which is keybind for afterburners, you'll see we're actually flying the F-18 now, which is good. We like that. So from here, what you're going to want to do is, before I do anything with the animations, I will get everything for the pilot and co-pilot, or if it's single-seater, whatever, ready. So everything that the pilot sees is going to be in vehicle only. So your stick displays, which are these little yellow dials, basically your controls. You can put those wherever you want in the cockpit, on the MFDs, down on these panels, whatever you want. Usually, I will delete HUD screen pilot and passenger, but for right now, I'm just going to turn them off since I don't know what materials the actual HUD on this. Okay, so it does have its own model. Usually, you kind of want to be careful with that because there are some models where the HUD is also linked to the canopy or anything glass on the aircraft. So in order to see the HUD from this HUD screen, you're going to go to your materials and you're going to type in something called HUD filter. So just like that. Boom. Now you can see the HUD, pitch ladder, altitude, speedometer, all that good stuff right from here with only changing one material. You can move your throttle into the cockpit as well as your joystick, which you'd want to make a separate part in Blender. So we'll just throw it right there for now. You can move your air to ground screen. Another thing I've found very, very helpful, especially when moving parts like this, is you can get yourself close, or get the main camera close to the MFD or wherever you want to put it, and you can click Control Shift F, and it will automatically rotate that object where the camera was. So from here, all we gotta do is that. So cool. And then from here, we'll just leave that all in. Okay, cool. Now that we have everything for the pilot setup that we're gonna want, all the basics, we're going to and we're gonna animate now. So this is the tricky part, not really. Open up your animation tab, and if you're selected on something else, like anything other than your SF1, so you can see we're selected on the SF1 main and its vehicle respawner, but it's not bringing up any animations. You have to be selected on SF or anything under SF1 for it to bring up the animations, which are all of these. So from here, we're going to find the animation we would put the gear on, which is going to be gear. I typically delete all of these, but for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to keep them. Actually, no, it's going to be more complicated. Okay, so we can zoom out, we can up, down, whatever. Here are the buttons you're going to want to remember. So this is your record button. If I move something here, and let's say I move it up there, this is the animation now for the gear. So it'll play this animation whenever we toggle the gear in game. But that's not the actual gear. So we're going to go to our bone. We're going to want to make sure we're on pivot. And over the course of 4 seconds to rotate. Now you'll notice that part just disappeared for no reason right there. This is because of bounds. This is one problem with rigging, and it's not really that big of a deal. So select all of the parts that were rigged or have bones attached to them, and you'll see they're a little bit different than like this airframe. So you'll notice this only has a mesh render. These parts have a skinned mesh render, which means they have bounds. So if you click on edit bounds and you turn your gizmos on, you'll see how small these bounds are. So what you're going to want to do is just change them to 9. So now these bounds are massive, and we shouldn't have that problem anymore of them disappearing. Yep. Okay, so we're just going to animate this the best we can. On things like this, where one rotation is off, you can switch to global, and it will help just a little bit. To animate things like your nozzle steering, the bone that you attached is always going to be under the parent bone. So we can move this hydraulic now. You'll see this all moves. So we're just gonna go back to local and just kind of touch this up just a little bit. There we go. So our front landing gear is animated. Now we're going to animate the gear flaps, so the little covers. So it should be, yes. So what I typically want to do, so you'll notice if you go to like 430, which is half a second, and you rotate all of these, they're not going to wait on your gear. They're just going to run through this animation. So what you can do before you animate anything is you can find the spot where you're going to want to finish animating this, where it meets its final resting position. You're going to go to the top right and copy world transform. So this saves all of the positions, rotations, just like that. So now we can rotate this, and you'll notice it's going to do the same thing here. Except now we can find a spot where we want the gear flap to start rotating, and we can just paste that. So now it's going to stand still until it reaches that keyframe, and then it's going to start moving. Do that for each one of our gears, gear flaps, whatever you want to call them. Oh, skipping steps. Oh, wrong button. There we go. Okay, cool. So now you'll notice that front gear is animated, which is good. So if you're using the base animations that the SF1 comes with on its own, then you won't have to do anything in which uses your layers and parameters, which is going to be a way big jump for someone who's just getting into Saccflight. But this is how you'd animate things. You would do the same for your flaps, your roll, yaw, pitch, slats. You can animate your slats on AOA. Okay, cool. Now let's just picture we fully animated the F-18 the best we could. So speed brakes, flaps, flaperons, elevators, rudders, slats, all the good stuff, right? We animated all of that. Now, to make it look good, we're going to go to the effects controller. So you'll see a bunch of stuff come out here. So you have your wing trails. You just want to put that on the pylons, or roughly on the pylons. It's about right there. We're going to move them up. Cool. We can move our Mach vapor, which typically you're going to want to scoot backwards. AOA vapor, I typically just move it up just a little bit. And then here you have your G vapors. So these are important. Just grab this red part and then just kind of scoot it over onto the Lex. About right there. Cool. And then the nav lights, I mean, I don't typically have any use for them. So now, and if you want to see if your animations are working and stuff like that, you can select your aircraft and then click Shift F, or a part of your aircraft. Click Shift F, and it will take you to that part, and it will follow it. So you can change this, and then you can also turn off selection outline here. That's why my game view is down here. So now, if we go into play mode, so you'll see gears down, all that good stuff. Now we can jump into the pilot seat. We can see the HUD now. All of our stick displays are here. Okay, we can take off, and you'll see that our camera is following the F-18 in our scene view up top. So now if we click G, which is the gear toggle, you'll see it's animated, which is cool. Now we have a working, flying, animated F-18. And for your effects controller, we're going to want to get a little bit of speed, so we'll put on the burners here. You'll see the wing trail vapors there, off the wings, and the G vapors. And then if we get a little bit slower, so let's say AOA, that's 7, 10, 12. So now the AOA vapor should be coming into play. It's very faint, just in general. But yeah, that's pretty much how you get started. From here you can just fine-tune animations, fine-tune your model, make custom liveries, find better models, things like that. And yeah, and then if you want to upload this file to VRChat so you can actually play it in game, you're going to want to go to VRChat SDK, show control panel, and it will give you this little panel right here. From here, you're just going to sign into your VRChat account, and then upload it. It's pretty self-explanatory. VRChat will give you instructions on how to upload. So also make sure to save your project. It's pretty important. Thank you for watching my tutorial video. I hope you enjoyed it. Anything else you'd like to see, just comment and I'll see what I can do. Thank you.